I'm Samula Sanjana, and this is one of my SPB projects I did for one of assignments in IJC. So this is just a simple mini POS system because it's only contain customer, item, and order part. You can place at customers, update, delete, and did all the operations for customer, item, and you can select customers, items, and play orders here. So let's go to the backend. So basically, I'm using HTML, CSS for the front end because it's simpler. Mm, so if we talk about customer, mm, I'm using jQuery and CTalent for good notifications alerts. So so this is the base URL for customer. I will talk about it in a second. So to send a request from frontend to backend, I'm using AJAX objects. So it is basically it's AJAX mean asynchronous JavaScript and XML, uh, which we can send and update the front end without fully reloading the page. That's why it's called asynchronous. Uh, because basically it doesn't break the main thread. It runs in the background and loads the data into the front end. Yeah, there's this one of the just Ajax request, and this is a post method, which is like at you can save let's say you wanna save a customer, so you need to define what you're gonna do to the like, oh, are you going to delete, or are you going to update, or you're gonna add a new customer. Like you need there's like four methods we use the most. They are post, put, delete, and I'll show you put, delete. Yeah, I'll use three here. Uh, so let's talk about the save customer first. Mm, so part, this part for the table. When I click on a table row, it basically autofill the fields for me. And this is the load customer function, which basically uh, send a get request to the backend and load all the data from the database and iterate over the each uh, data that we get that data as in a data array. Basically, it's array, uh, and it's iterate over each uh, row and show it in the table. Mm, we talk about post part, send the data and basically get the response here. If we scored 201, basically okay, or sorry, 200 created or 200 okay, I get a notification called custom saved, and it's clear the form and then load the customer again cause backend will be updated, and the front end in the front end we need to show the last added customer again. So we load the customer again. Hmm, yeah, that's basically it. So let's go to the backend. So in this backend, you can see like there's some like if you go to the like new packages here, there is config, controller, DTO, entity, exception, repository, services, and URL. So these are like main parts of Spring backend. Yeah, like I previously said, I made the backend using Spring Boot. It's a framework you can build web applications and other projects. So yeah, in controller, this is the main part. Uh, if you know Spring, there's the structure that you receive a request from the content. Basically, the request first uh, will catch by Tomcat server. Then Tomcat server uh, finds the project which, I mean, the servlets, the what's it called? So dispatcher servlet. The dispatcher servlet is the main controller that receives the request from the Tomcat server, and it find the correct control for us. Like, I mean, there's separate controllers for each part, customer, item, and order. So dispatcher servlet find that correct control for us. So we define the path here, request mapping. So the REST controller is basically saying this is the REST controller which automatically then return response as a JSON update. It returns all uh, it responses as a JSON object. If you go to that REST controller annotation, you can see it's a addition of controller and response body. That's because we send when we send a data JSON from front end, the customer controller then receives it. So you can see the parameters here. The customer controller is say request body. So in here, what's happening in Spring? There's a library called Jackson. So Jackson will convert that JSON object we got from the front end and convert like map into a Java object, which are called DTOs, the data transfer object. So the yeah, that's why we need to be careful when defining this variable names, cause these variable names must match the front end uh, variable names, cause that's how Jackson map the JSON objects and Java objects. And before that, I want to talk about the starting point of our Spring Boot project. So this is the Spring Boot. You can see the Spring Boot application notation here. It's consists of. Did you see the component scan annotation and auto configuration? Yeah, these two. So this means when I run this project, uh, we so that's the difference between Spring and Spring Boot. So the main difference is like the less configurations. So these annotations are here for it. It's basically auto runs configurations and did doing the component scan for all the classes with component annotation. We are not using component annotation. For example, let's get a rep repository. So I'm using a repository annotation here. it's basically just using a component notation, which is the same like when the Spring Boot project is started. It will basically find these annotated classes and add it to the context. Yeah, so we talk about customer controller. Yeah, and there's something I didn't talk about is cross origin part. So this is also one of main problems, not a problem like security implement implementation from browsers. So we are sending the request from a browser here, like Chrome. When we send like this front end, you can see run from the 63,342 port. So this is it's another port. So as we define in the front end, the backends run in the 8080 port. The default port for Tomcat servers. So you can see there is a two different ports. So this is where cross origin issue came. So yeah, we using this cross uh, orientation to resolve this issue because when front end and back ends are in different origins, we can't directly communicate with it. Because let's say the hacker made the same front end like ours, and they can also send a request to our back end. So that's was a big issue. So cross in using this cross origin, we can assign our front end like uh, the origin ports of the front end we are running it, and it can identify the front end. So this basically solves the cross origin security function, and it bypasses it. So required constructor come from the Lombok. So it's basically like this customer service. You can see it's come from the service for it's okay. I will explain it later. I want to explain by directory. You can see there's like four methods here, and we define the request mapping and part of URL here. So this is the base URL for these endpoints. So yeah, we assign a base URL here for this related endpoints here. So when request come here, it checks for the method. AJAX method are we use the like uh, called post. Let's say we send the post method to save a customer. So it's run this method. So post mapping. It has post mapping annotation. And yeah, we send this to service. Yeah, that's one thing. Why did we send it to the service? This is called a layered architecture. So this is four directories here. Main one is controller. Uh, this handles HTTP requests which come from the front end. So that's the task of controllers. And the DTOs to transfer data between the service and other layers. To repository we send the JSONs we confirm got from front end, and we basically converted it to Java objects, right? So that's for that part we are using these DTOs, and the entities uh, these two for the tables like this this mappings to for the tables like mm, these these are mappings for table headers in the which we made in the my in MySQL. So exceptions. I will talk about this later. Repository. Uh, I used to talk with database, so we directly not talking to the backend from the front end. So there are layers. Uh, so the service directory. So why we use service directory to um, define business logics. So we define logics in the service layer, and we talk to the database in the repository layer, and we transfer data using DTOs and handle HTTP request in controller. You see, there's a good structure here, which is can be maintained easily. So one thing is, so this valid request you see here, why we use it? So when HTTP JSON of requests come from the front end, we basically saying when we assign and mapping the data into the customer DTOs, you need to validate before. So when you go to the customer DTO, you can see I'm using regex patterns. So these regex patterns will check before this file before the values will be assigned from the JSON objects. And yeah, that's it. Uh, Same things go to post mapping, delete mapping, and other things. So let's go to the service layer. We defines the logics of our system. So why we using a service interface here and implementing them using customer service implementation classes. So this resolves a problem called tight coupling. So if you go to the customer control again, see we are calling the customer service and the required constructor annotation will auto uh, resolve this dependency injection and we are implementing customer service interface from customer service IMPL. So yeah, we define these methods, save customer, update, get all like customers, and the implementation classes will need to override these methods. So this work like a contact. So this solves a, a main issue like we said before, tight coupling. And yeah, in customer service, we mainly doing the logic parts. So let's talk about save customer here. So you see, we are checking is the customer details null. So yeah, that's a big problem because it will put a null point issue. So null point issue. So that's why we throw new bad request exception. So if you go to the exception folder, so there's a global exception handler. Sorry. So we're using REST control advice. This is basically saying this is like a main point to catch all the exception in our project. So if there's any exception occurs, this class will catch that exception, and we can assign exception handler like methods to catch each one. So this is a global one. Use exception class, and this is a exclusive one for null point exception. You can see here. And this is for method argument not found. So this get the validation issues. Yeah, the bad request for this you can find the issues from the front end. So code 400, which is 400 to 500, the issues to integrate the issues from front end. And there's some custom classes, exception classes I made. So bad request and resource not found exceptions. Yeah, I'm throwing one right here. And so if customer detail is not null, so this block won't be executed. Then customer repository will be called. So you see, when in controller we call to the service. Then in service layer we call to the repository. So there's like layer by layer. We send data layer by layer. So the like separation of concerns. Mm, we didn't do the same things here because initializing the customer repository and yeah, customer mapper. So this sorry, model mapper is a mapper that get the customer DTO, like it get the DTO classes and convert into the mm entity classes to be. So in to send the backend we need to convert them into the entities, right? So entities are like map into the ones that map into the database tables. So yeah, this is pretty easy to cause we are checking if they are null and throw custom exceptions here. And yeah, that's it. Let's go to the repository layer. So in repository layer, uh, so I defined four repository classes. You can see I'm using the repository annotation here, and it's the interface. If we did a class, we will need to uh, override every every method in JPA repository. So we are using interface. So it will be auto executed, and it extends JPA repository. Which means JPA. Uh, we don't need to manually uh, execute define every SQL. Uh, it auto saves the customer according to the method we use in service in IMPL. So I can show example for you. So in item repository, if you say like save directly come from the uh, item repository. So if you go to the customer repository, uh, JPA repository come from data JPA. Yeah, and we send customer entity and the data type of the primary key of that entity table, and it auto saves to the database. Mm, so if we talk about the item page, it's basically it's the same like save, update, delete. We get the response from JSON response from the front end, and Jackson will convert it into the Java object and validate it. So if the validation is good, we send it to the item service, and then the item service implementation. Then it will send to the repository. If there's no exception, it is saved will be saved to the database. And yeah, this API response. So this is the structure for API responses. We send from backend to the front end. So we are sending a status code like 400, 404, 500 internals like that, and we send a message so we can show the message from the backend directly in the front end notifications, and we send data. So I'm using generics. So we need to it will assign the data type we pass here to this uh, variable here. Mm, and to show example, see we are sending a response entity. So response entity is like a wrapper. It just have a uh, part to send a header and a body. So in the header, this is where I send the HTTP status like it's created. Oh, it also like that. In the body, we are sending a new API response with status code 201 created. Customer saved successfully like that. So there's no data. We send sending a response. Mm, if we get a get mapping. So in a get mapping, we can't send just null. We have to send the customers we got from the backend. So that's why I'm sending customers here. You see, if I'm sending a customer, we passing a list customer data type. So yeah, we get a list of customers from the backend, and that's the data types of the generic like we used in API response. And let's go to the order controller. So in order control, there's like same customer can purchase different type of items, right? So order DTO will get it. And let's go to the order DTO. So it have order ID and the customer ID and the total of the order, basic things. And a list of item DTO, order detail DTO, sorry. If you go to the order detail DTO, it have the item ID, quantity, and unit price. Yeah, that's it, right? So let's go to the order service. It have a place order method and a get next order because we do not want to apply the order ID manually. So we generate it from the backend and send to the front end. Mm, and then order service implementation. So right when we place order, there's not just one database update. There's like multiple steps for it, right? We call it what a transaction. So transaction will update multiple tables, but it not directly updating the transaction. It's like a proxy. So uh, if only every part gets fully executed without exception, yeah, it will directly save the data into the related database. But if one exception occurs, all the previous successful executions will be rollbacks. That's what a transaction is. So in Spring Boot, we have transactional annotation. Yeah, it's confirmed string framework, transaction annotation, transactional. So yeah, we doing the validation cause yeah orders DTOs must be maybe null. So when we fetch the customer from the backend, and create a new order and order and add the customer to the that order and date to it. Yeah, then we send it and we save it here. Then we need to get each order detail. So let's say customer have a bun, like got four buns for like 100 rupees. So then three books for like 800. So there's like two type of items. So there's like two rows of data we need to add to the order detail table. So we get that detail from the order detail DTO and DTO list we got from the front end and saving each one to the database. Yeah, and when we we sell an item from the store, the item quantity get reduced, right? So we are reducing the quantity from here, and yeah, and saving all the details. If any of the exception happen, it will roll back all. Yeah, just get next order ID. Yeah, it's find the last row of the order database and add one to it and return it to the front end so we can place the next order. And so configuration class. So configuration class, uh, we use configuration annotation for it. So configurations will be auto uh, solved from Spring Boot, and we in configuration classes that's where we define bean like beans that let's say we got from a third party library from internet and we can directly use in Spring Boot for it project. That's not a Spring Bean. So we need to turn it into a bean and put it in the uh, Spring Boot context. So yeah, that's what we doing here. We can use the bean annotation in other classes, but it won't be uh, bean like not a Spring Bean. Yeah, that's basically it for the backend. So yeah, these are entities like item. Yeah, one to many to one because all details have many items. So we are using higher JPA Hibernate for here in here. So yeah, mm, we can yeah that's for the backend. So let's go to the front end, add some data. So customer, we're not defining a ID here. That's for the updates. Mm, let's say, so, uh, the, oh, yeah, we get a success notification here. We can update it, right? Customer not contain only letters, must contain only letters and spaces. Like it's validate from the front end too. So there's no point of updating and him with a later. So let's go to the item part. And it's that item. So let's say a pencil. And quantity of 20 and let's one's like 25, right? So yeah, item successfully added to the backend. So let's go to the order. So there's already two orders in the backend database. So we select a customer and item. So it's a like pencil that we added to the backend. Say we had five pencils, like five times 25, 125, and also had like a banana, like six bananas. And 20 times is 120. The total is 245. And we play, so yeah, it also successful. Yeah, that's the basic uh, explanation for the Spring Boot project. I did this like a simple Spring Boot system project, so that's not doesn't have much to it. Uh, yeah, thank you. See you guys again.